So, hello and welcome to the next edition of the ZEBRAtalk. It is episode number 3, and with that, we are almost ready to jump straight into it. Of course, as every week, I do have Schlaum alongside with me, and how are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
Hey Tyler, I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to our talk today, and I'm super happy to be here. So yeah, it's hot in Germany. I'm sweating, but it's gonna be a great talk. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And yeah, I think it's time to introduce our guest, Tyler.
Yeah, and of course, first talk, we had one of our Rocket League players. Second talk, we did bring in one of our sim racers, who's also a real-life racer. And guess what? This week, over at BSCOMPETITION, of course, we do have a lot of racers out there, and it is still a very interesting guest, of course, as he does a lot of professional racing as well when it comes down to it. And he's still not exactly the oldest. Let's head on over and bring on in Laurin. How are you doing today?
Hi guys, I'm fine. Happy to be here. Yeah, as you said, I'm also racing in real life. I'm a so-called hybrid racer, but yeah, I will introduce myself later, I think.
Yeah, I think we can actually start about that right now. Tell us, how did you kind of get into it? Just keep it short for now, and we'll try to get more in depth as the show progresses.
Yeah, I do a lot of racing in the virtual world and also in the real world. I think I started about at the same time. I think I was around 8 years old, and at first I was only driving with a keyboard on the PC, and at the same time my dad bought me my first racing card. So I cannot even tell what I started first. But yeah, I think it suits the hybrid racer name even more to start at the same time.
Oh, well, definitely. And I think it's such an interesting topic. We had Angus on last week, who's also a hybrid racer, also racing in real life and in the sim racing world. And it was super interesting to hear from him. So yeah, I think we can start talking about your path in BSCOMPETITION. You've been with BSCOMPETITION for over a year now, right?
Yeah, that's right. I've been at BSCOMPETITION at the very beginning. So I was one of the founding members. I got to know Florian in Le Mans in 2019, I think it was. And yeah, I'm super happy to be there from the very beginning to now, and experiencing all the growth the team had, and the big expansion of the team.
Yeah, I think it's certainly interesting the way that it has developed, and of course, with you being a hybrid racer, and of course having your own commitments in life as well, you're still a student, right?
Not anymore.
Oh.
I graduated. Yeah, I graduated from school in 2019.
Okay, but uni, right? Or are you not in uni right now?
More or less, I started in the winter, and so last winter, and then it worked quite well. But when my racing started this summer, there was no way for me to do both at the same time, because I'm racing both in Porsche Mobile 1 Supercup and Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, and yeah, now I'm in a period where I have 7 race weeks in a row, so I had to stop it. I'm planning to continue to resume it, but as of now, I want to focus on the real motorsport and on sim racing.
Yeah, I think that's totally understandable that it's just too much and you need to focus on one thing. Still, can you tell us what you were studying, which course you took?
I started in economics. In Germany, it's one of the most selected topics, but it's good because after you graduated, you have a broad spectrum of what you can do. And as of at the moment in the winter, I didn't really know what I want to do if I don't become a racing driver or a 100% professional sim racer. So I just took economics, and to have a broad spectrum when I'm done.
Yeah, I think quite interesting, of course, a lot of people have to develop next to their studies, or then maybe even are strong enough to just finish their school and jump straight into it. So it's interesting to hear that you basically said, okay, well, 1 semester and then everything just took off. With you, of course, finishing your school, How was the balance there? Because I mean, you were pretty much racing full on in that year as well, right? Riding your Abitur?
Yes, it was a really tough time. In 2018, I took a break so I could focus more on school, and but it was more due to financial reasons. But yeah, in 2019, I was also racing. It was my first year in GT cars, and it was really tough to do my Abitur, as you said, and then also focus on racing. It was a really tough time, but I'm really happy that I made it. Really happy that I did my Abitur because it's really important. You never know what's happening, especially in motorsport. And also, many manufacturers and important people in motorsport care about what you do next to racing. So that was a really important step I did, yes.
I think that's really great to hear. Actually, that the people who are not forced to care about it still care about the development of the drivers and try to take care of you guys in a way that you also have, some other options in life if racing doesn't work out in the end. Or, and as you said, you never know what happens, and also with all sports, there will come a time where where the age comes that you can't race anymore or do your sport anymore. So I think it's always good to have another option as a backup. And I'm really excited to hear that, as you said, that the manufacturers and organizations care about that. It's really impressive for me that you managed to do your Abitur and race professionally at the same time. Because when I think back about doing my own school, it was a really time-consuming phase of life, and having something else at the same time can be really exhausting. And Tyler's just nodding his head at the moment.
I can add on top of that, we're roughly the same age. There's about 6 months between us, and I also just finished my Abitur in basically the start of 20 or mid of 2020. Yeah. There you go, like 1 year out of school, and I don't even know my math anymore. But yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to that. Basically, almost like being into a full-time position and knowing what you want to do career-wise, and then still, of course, having that burden of school to know, well, it's nice to have something to fall back on, but at least you're set for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, back then you're really young. I mean, I'm still really young, but the only thing you think about is racing, and that's the only thing you want to do. School is kind of boring when you can also sit in a race car. But yeah, I really realized really early that it's important also for myself, not only for other people, to have plan B. And yeah, you also have to imagine back then I also did a lot of sim racing at the same time. So I had like three duties in my life, which were really important for me. Yeah, now as you say, I also forgot a lot of things I learned in school. But I mean, it's really important to have it in the pocket. And yeah, many racing drivers I'm racing against, they aborted school, so they have nothing they can do when they don't become a professional racing driver. And yeah, for me, it's important that I don't have a future like this. And I mean, motorsport is a sport where it can end in 5 years, and then there's nothing to do anymore. So yeah, maybe I should also care more about my studies in economics, but I'm planning to resume that in the winter. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's also something that you can always fall back on, where literally, I mean, you finish your school, and there's not too many people that go back when they're end of their 20s or start of their 30s to do their Abitur, while certainly a lot of people go back and go back to university and study there. So I think that option is always there. Moving on to basically how your life went back when you were still in school, what was the, like, how did the teachers like go about it that you were basically a professional race car driver?
That was a really funny thing because some teachers they didn't know at all what I'm doing. They thought I don't know. They thought it's like club sport, or I don't know. It was most of them didn't even know. They couldn't imagine what I did. And some others, they were really interested. It was really funny. They were watching my races, and then Monday when I came back in school, they were like half an hour. They were just asking about how it was and so on. So the class was really happy that we didn't have to do anything. But yeah, the thing which was even more funny was the teachers who didn't know anything, because all my colleagues, they knew what I did, and then the teachers, they were just asking stupid questions which didn't make any sense. So that was a really funny time. And but yeah, I also always try to not yeah, boast for or speak too much about it, because in the end I'm also a pupil, and I'm also just in school to learn.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always, I mean, if people know, it's okay to talk about it, but you should never go around like boasting about, as you said.
Yeah.
That's not not a good character trait. At the same time, when you said it was funny because, yeah, school driving, talking about another driving school, to make that gap. How was it for you that you were racing before you got your driving license? I imagine it's a super weird experience to then go and learn how to drive.
Yeah, on the one hand, it was really annoying to not be allowed to drive on the public roads when I'm racing a race car on the racetrack. But yeah, I mean, it's the same for everyone. I don't get any advantage there just because I'm a racing driver. But the thing which was even funnier was the driving school, because my teacher, he already knew before that I was a racing driver, so we took it quite easy. We were just chilling around, doing the lessons we had to take, not more, and then I finished it pretty easily, or not easily. I had one moment in my driving test which was pretty close, but yeah, I mean, it happens, and I passed it pretty easy. It was a lot of fun, the driving school is.
Yeah, I think one part there as well is, especially within Germany, you do need to have a lot of lessons, and you do also get through that theory test. And there's some of those theory questions that doesn't matter if you're a racer, doesn't matter who you are, if you don't just learn them and sit down to learn them, then you're not going to manage to pass too easily. So I think that's always something, that the theory part there. But yeah, I mean, it seems like you're always juggling 2, 3, maybe even more things at the same time. Was there any time back then or even now to do anything else apart from sim racing, school, and even have a personal life in there?
I mean, I have a girlfriend. Yes, I try to spend as much time as possible with her and my family, because I really appreciate it to spend time with people who don't have to do anything with racing, especially now when I'm so many days on the racetrack and so many days traveling. So many people always think the racing is exhausting, but which is even more exhausting is yeah, just the traveling, driving the car on the road for 2,000 kilometer or even more in one week is pretty exhausting. And yeah, back then when I was young, I was only focused on racing. There was not anything else, but it's still like that. I enjoy it. It's my passion, and I didn't have any single moment where I thought, no, this it's not for me, or I was annoyed by it. Of course, you have moments, or of course you have setbacks, but it always motivated me even more to be stronger and to focus even more on motorsport.
Yeah, that's sounds like a great mindset that you have there, and also at the same time, I think it can be really, yeah, refreshing and calming to surround yourself with some people that are not that involved in what you're doing in your professional life, because yeah, when you always talk about the same topics with everyone around you, it can get a bit too much. So it's good to have like this yeah, kind of gap between that and your personal life, and I think that's a great thing. Going back to BS competition, you told us you met Flo in Le Mans, and yeah, maybe you can just tell us some stories from the early days of BS competition. I only joined BS competition a few months back, so I don't even know that much about how the whole sim team came to be.
Yeah, so it all started when Alexander Voss, my teammate, and me, we won the first BMW 120, and the prize for the winner was to go to Le Mans and just be invited by BMW, have tickets for the hospitality, and we were really happy to do the trip. I mean, coming there was a big adventure because we had a small car accident on the way and missed our flight. It was horrible, but then once we were there, it was a really great time. We met Flo and Timo, and then I mean already at that weekend we knew we want to do something together. And after that weekend, he approached us and said, "Hey guys, I'm so amazed by it. I want to do my own sim team." And then we thought, "Oh, this guy, he doesn't really know what it takes to do a sim team." But I mean, maybe he didn't even know really, but he just was so into sim racing. It was all new for him, and he was so passionate about it. And then Alex and me, we knew he's a great guy, and we should join him. And then we did it. We did our first race. I think it was the BMW 120 at Sebring, and back then we were only two drivers in the team, so it was really good to only have a short race, which was 2 hours. Because if we had a 24-hour race with two people, it would have been crazy exhausting. And yeah, it was also not so nice because we had to leave back our old teammates from or at Williams Esports, but it didn't take long until Flo also wanted them in our team, and it worked out pretty well. I think 2 months or even less later, we had them on the team. So we were one squad. It was a really nice time. We were pretty small back then, but we were quite successful. We had a great time. It was really nice. I could focus a lot on sim racing because it was, yeah, as everyone knows, it was the COVID-19 situation, which was not so nice, but it was great. I spent a lot of time on the simulator. I got to know many new friends, even if I couldn't meet them, I could speak to them, like Philipp Eng, Bruno Spengler, also fellow real racers. Maybe some leagues above me, but I'm coming there. So it was a nice time. We won the 24 hours of Nürburgring. I think it was, or it is still one of our biggest successes. And from that moment on, it just went uphill. The team got bigger and bigger, and we were even more successful.
Yeah, and that was actually something that we also wanted to touch base on at some stage. With the whole COVID situation hitting, of course, you were already a hybrid in Sims then as well. How did that go? I mean, what was pretty much like the first couple of weeks, maybe the first month or so of the lockdown like for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, for everyone, it was a really new situation. No one knew what is coming up to us. But I have to say, if I look back, or pretty soon I realized that I was one of the persons who profited from it. I have to say. I mean, it is like this because I was in Porsche Sports Cup 2019. I won the championship. It's not a really big championship, but it was my start in GT racing, and I won it. So the next step was going to the Carrera Cup. It was my big goal. I did a guest start at the end of 2019, so I really was keen on driving there during my rookie season. But during the winter, we realized it was really hard to find all the partners and get the budget together to drive. So I profited because it gave a lot of time to find new partners, new sponsors, and to get the money together to get a full season. And on the other hand, I also realized, oh, this is my time to shine. I can present myself. Many real racers were just sitting at home doing basically nothing, and then through that also couldn't show themselves. And this was my opportunity to show myself as a real racer in the virtual world. And I profited so much by it through winning the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, doing the DNLS season, and there was so much attention on sim racing. And then as a hybrid racer, I profited in both worlds from it. And on top of that, I also could get my drive in the Carrera Cup Deutschland. It was really important for me to do that step because otherwise I would get stuck in the lower series. So I have to say, it was an advantage for me to just get that time where I can present myself. But yeah, for most people, it was a really hard time, and it was not so nice. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, it was like we're gonna be at home for 2 weeks, and then 1 year later you were looking at your watch, what happened. But yeah, I think it's great that sim racing especially profited a lot from the COVID situation. I think there was a lot of attention on sim racing, and yeah, as you said, a lot of drivers had a chance to show themselves to the world and got more attention than they would have had otherwise. So yeah, I think it can always be a chance, a special situation like the COVID pandemic. Talking about real racing and sim racing, we asked this question, Angus, last week as well. For you, what is the biggest difference between driving a real car and driving in a sim rig?
That's not easy. I mean, there are many differences in many different ways, but for me, the biggest difference is that you have a lot of more stuff going on in your head, and in sim racing, you just drive. It's every time it's more or less the same. Of course, the conditions change. Also, the car balance changes a bit, but in real racing, you have to take care about so much stuff. If you really want to be on top, everything counts. You have to take into account how you warm up the tires. Everything makes a difference. It's a lot of more detail because you just have so many more different factors, like brake wear, brake temperature is I mean, of course, it's more or less simulated in the software, but you never can have it 100% realistic. And then also just the wear of the car. And in sim racing, every car is the same, but in real life, it's not like that. Even if we drive the same model in the series, there are just these small differences. When you drive, for example, when I drive the car of my teammate, it feels completely different, but in the end, it's the same car. So in sim racing, it's more static, I would say, and in real life, it's just more dynamic. There are many more things you have to care about, and you also have to take into account that there's a lot of money involved. Many people look at the actions you do. If you do something wrong, many people will see it, and also the important people will see it. They will not forget it. In sim racing, if you do something wrong, of course, it's a really bad feeling, especially for the team, but it doesn't have so much influence on your future, I would say.
I think one part there as well that we had a talk about with Angus, he said that he basically wasn't into sim at all before the pandemic and literally just jumped into it once it got going. Is basically like, he said that sure, like sim racers might even have an advantage sometimes in real life racing, just because of course in a sim, if you push the car too far, you could just reset and work back from that. So you kind of know quicker on where the limits are. Is that something that you could transfer from sim as well into real cars? So have you actually had experiences in your sim at home, maybe even that you then could transfer into the real car? Or is it fundamentally different, as you kind of already described just now?
No, I mean, I didn't want to say that it's so different. I use the sim a lot to prepare for my real racing. I mean, now there's not so much time, but even if I don't drive the big races which are live streamed, I sit a lot of time or a long time in the simulator to prepare for my races, just to drive the tracks, even if it's not 100% the same. It's just good to get a feeling for the track. And of course, on the sim, you have the factor that if you crash, it doesn't matter, especially in practice. But in real life, I think, I mean, it's maybe a bold sentence to say, but I think in the sim, it's easier to crash the car than in real life, because in real life, you just, you have a lot of more feeling of the car, and in real life, you're also on the limit. I don't want to say that you're not on the limit. I think in real life you sometimes even send it a bit more than on the sim, but I mean it's also a big difference, as Angus said, that on the sim you can crash as many times as you want, and in real life you have to start maybe at 90% and then work your way up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest differences, that, as you already described, there's money involved. There are more, like, a crash in real life has way more bad consequences than it does in sim, because there is no reset button in real life. So you always, as you said, you have to work your way up and try to get closer to the 100% from the way down. while as in sim racing, you can maybe start pushing a bit too hard and then go down from there. But yeah, it's I think it's super interesting to talk to people that really join these two worlds together and take the best out of both of them in a way. So yeah, let's maybe talk about your achievements this year, because there've been, like, we've been researching today, and there are quite a few big races coming up, or already that have already happened where you have done really well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in my second year in Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland. This year it's pretty special. We have a new car. The 992 series is very new for this year. It's new for everyone. So I like it a lot because it's, I would say, a small reset for everyone who had a lot of experience on the old car. And that is good for me because I didn't drive the old car so much like the other people. So now everyone starts from, yeah, not zero, but close to zero, and everyone has to develop the car together with the engineers. And I think we did quite well in the preseason testing. We did a lot more than last year, but you also need it with a new car. And yeah, the season opener at Spa was already quite successful. I finished in both races on P2, which was good for me, and it's really important points, especially at the beginning of the season. After we were in Oschersleben, finished the first race on P3. It was a tough race because we were out on slicks and the first few laps were on wet track, so it was also a new experience for me. I don't have so much experience on the rain, but it's always good to do laps on a wet track and to learn more. And then on the second race was my big moment. I took my first victory in the series. It was a really great day. Oschersleben was always a track which suited me really well. I was there also on pole position last season in my rookie season, and on that place I also won the rookie championship in 2020. So I had really good memories, and I was really motivated to finally take my first win. I managed to do it. I closed in on the championship leader, and yeah, last weekend at Red Bull Ring in Austria, I could take my second win in the second race, and yeah, for my luck, the leader in the championship only finished P6. He didn't have such a good weekend, and I could take over the lead of the championship. It was a great moment because all my family and also my girlfriend were there. So we had a small celebration, and I'm only leading by 3 points. So it's really competitive. It's really tight. So every detail can make the difference, but I'm really on it, and I'm quite motivated to continue like this in Monza this week.
Yeah, and I think one thing as well is, I mean, not to bolster the show too much, it's only the third episode, but last time that we spoke with a real-life racer, with Angus, and he said, well, I potentially have a drive this weekend, because for him, the season isn't as active as yours. He doesn't have a full-time drive this year, but he was called up, and he did end up winning both of his races on the weekend. So, I mean, maybe that's going to be a thing now. So, I mean, all the best, and maybe we can get into a role here.
Yeah, it would be nice. Congrats to him, yeah. And yeah, I hope for a good weekend in Monza. The testing there was good. I finished the official Porsche Mobile One Supercup test there on P2. So I'm really motivated. It will be my first race on this track, but I'm not afraid. I prepare a lot for the races. I watch races from the past years, 2020, 2019, just to see or get a feeling how you race on the track, especially on Monza with the slipstream battles. And it will be a really exhausting time for me because after that I still have 5 straight weekends to go where I have races. But I'm really motivated to do also more races in the Porsche Mobile One Supercup because I only did one race there yet in Monaco. It was the season opener. It was not my best weekend because I had a crash in free practice, but I'm really motivated to come back, especially after my victory in the Carrera Cup, because most people who race in the Super Cup also race in the Carrera Cup. So the competition is more or less the same. I know I have the potential to also score well there and be good in the Rookie Championship.
It's a full schedule you have coming up, so lots of racing to be had. Yeah, sounds absolutely great. As I already said, best of luck for the weekend. I would say we jump to our next topic we have. Or maybe, yeah, when we're talking about tracks, as you said, you haven't been in Monza before, or did you race Monza before only for the testing, right?
No, only for the testing. It was my first day.
Okay, yeah. But what is your favorite track?
Oh, that's hard to say. I mean, the Supercup is racing with Formula One in Europe, so there are many great tracks. I haven't been there, but we went testing to I think all of them, and I have to say Silverstone was really nice. And then 2 weeks ago we went in Budapest in Hungary. It was a really nice track. It was really different, and I also couldn't prepare that well because it's not available on so many soft simulators, only on ACC, I think. I did some laps there, and it was really helpful, and the track suited me really well. But I also have to say, Zandvoort, the new one with the banking, is really nice. There's a lot of banking. Excited to race there. It was also my first day there. But yeah, I also love the classic German tracks like Hockenheim, Nürburgring. Hockenheim is, I would say, my home track, but it's still 1.5 hours away, and I'm looking forward to end the season there.
Yeah, and talking about favorite tracks as well, you didn't really set your sight on just one. Maybe we can get closer when it comes down to races. Of course, you've done a lot of races as well. How would you say, what would be your favorite race thus far, if you could pin on one or two of them?
I mean, from the atmosphere, I have to say, Super Cup in Monaco was really nice. Good, or the thing I like is that it's really special. Not many race drivers are, or even have the opportunity in their life to race there. So I was really thankful to be there. And even if they are now GT world champions, some of them haven't even driven there. So it was a really big privilege to race there. But I also have to say, I mean, even if it's not the most exciting track, always coming to Red Bull Ring, driving in the mountains is awesome. It's really nice to be there. Also, when you're not in the car, just going for a run through the mountains with your teammate or with your engineers is really fun, and you can do a lot of team building there also.
Yeah, I think one thing as well is, of course, as pretty much anybody when it comes down to racing, a lot of it is always just, okay, where do you start? Everybody starts in karting in general and then moves their way up from there. I did see that you also did a season of Formula 4, right? How do you compare that, being in a Formula car and being more or less in a road car?
I have to say, when I did Formula 4, it was a really interesting time because we did it as a private team. So my dad was my team boss.
Wow.
He bought a used car, and with the mechanics I knew from karting, we just had a mission to drive one season in ADAC Formula 4. Of course, it was a really tough time. We didn't have an engineer who sets up the car. No one had experience. It was new for everyone. So for me and the mechanics and the team boss and the engineer, which was not there. So it was really interesting. It was my start in racing cars. So it was really important for me because even if it was not the most successful time, I have to say, if we wouldn't have done it, I would probably still be sitting in a race car or not at all anymore. And yeah, the comparison to racing GT cars or more or less production cars is a really big difference. I have to say I like racing the GT cars more. Maybe because I'm also more successful there, I don't know, but I think I just like racing a car which you can also see on the streets and just pushing it to its limits.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting to hear that. That sounds like such an exhilarating time, just going for a Formula 4 slot essentially without the team that everyone else has. So I think it can be a really great time to learn also a lot of stuff. And yeah, it sounds super exciting. I just want to drop it in real quick. If any of you viewers out there have any questions for Laurin, go ahead and put them in the chat right now. We will forward them. And I think if we get any questions, we will take care of them, of course. Otherwise, Tyler, should we do the first?
I guess we can. So, of course, for anybody that's new to the show or hasn't watched any of the previous episodes, of course, it is only episode 3. We do try to set everybody up for a little bit, just saying, okay, well, what did you start with? How did everything go? How did your career progress thus far? And we kind of want to have a recurring program with that. And let's jump on over to our firsts. And with that, of course, I'm going to start with, well, your first console.
My
So,
first
game console.
I think it was PlayStation 2
Oh, wow.
back then. I think Gran Turismo 4.
Or you already answered our next question. I think, what was your first
Oh.
game? Was it Gran Turismo?
It's hard to say. It was either Gran Turismo or GTR 2. It was, I don't know if probably you still remember it. I think it was the demo version, which was included in a magazine. Back then, you could buy magazines
Yeah.
in a
Yeah, I
market, and then there
remember.
was a CD on. That was my first racing game with the keyboard.
So you also started racing in the gaming field. That's interesting. Next one. What was your first tournament? And we want to split it in what was the first virtual tournament you did as a sim driver, and was the first real world tournament you did?
I will start with the real world tournament because I think it's a bit easier. I was racing in karts for hobby, really long, so just training, going to a track for fun. And then in 2016, I did my first race. It was in Lidolsheim. Probably you don't know it. It's close to Hockenheim. And I did my first karting race. It did not go so well. The engine blew up. But yeah, that was my first real race. Not the most successful one, but it was a really nice experience, which I will never forget. And in sim racing, it's hard to say. I did a lot of online races, which were also organized in leagues, but it was not proper competitive. It was just for fun. So I would say the first race, which was really competitive, I did was in the iRacing GT World Championship. I think it was in 2016, but it was just a one-off. I was replacing a driver. It was also not the most successful one, but it was a really nice experience to get slapped by the pros back then.
So you basically started sim racing when you were 15, 16?
It's hard to say. I mean, when do you call it sim racing?
Yeah.
I started doing racing games when I was 8, but it was just on a keyboard, and I was just driving offline, and no proper competition.
All right. We do have one more first, and as we just basically start off with the first tournament or series or race, what was your first win also there in real life and in the virtual world?
In real life, it was in. It's also hard to say when do you call it a win? Do you call it a win when you win your class? Or I think my first win was, yes, in karting, but in cars it was probably in Formula 4 when I won the rookie class. It was a really rookie category. It was a really nice moment because the first rookie could always go on the podium with the top 3 overall. So going there as a private team with the top guys who are now racing in Formula 2 was an incredible moment, and was a great moment for my dad as a private team to be on the podium and also get a trophy for the work we did. And in sim racing, my first win was, yeah, in one of these smaller leagues probably, but the win I remember the most was 24 Hours Nürburgring 2020 with Philipp Eng and Alexander Voss.
All right. I think with that, we are going to be at the end of our first, at least. But I did just see we did get a question, actually. And maybe Alex can take care of that one.
Yeah, we got one question in chat from Yuri Karstorp. Laurin, why is Alan your favorite teammate?
Why is Alan my favorite teammate? It was I got to know him in 2020 for the 24 Hours Virtual when we drove for Corvette Racing. Yeah, I mean, Corvette hired Alexander Voss and me because we were really successful on iRacing, but we didn't have any clue about F-Factor 2, so we were really happy to have him as a F-Factor Pro to set us up with the software and yeah, he was really productive. He did most of the setup work. He was a really nice guy. He helped us a lot. We were a bit on the back foot with the software, obviously, but we had a successful race, well, more or less a successful race. I mean, we had a lot of red flags. It was more a big lottery if you're up front or not, but it was a really nice time to do my first F Factor 2 race with him.
Awesome. So I think we can conclude this third Zebra talk for today. I just want to drop in a quick thank you to our new followers, Nick, Florian, Diogo, and Maniti. Thank you guys for following us. We will be back next Wednesday. Thank you so much for your time, Laurin. It was great talking to you. And yeah, the show will also be available on YouTube and here on Twitch as VOD, and we will also release it as a podcast. And yeah, my name is Alex Schlaum, and thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Laurin, and
thank you.
Yeah, over to you, Fiedler.
Yeah, basically, we generally do go around the room as well. Just anybody can plug whatever they want, and we'll start with Laurin right now. You already said that you're racing on the weekend. Where should people tune in, and where should they follow you?
For non-German people, they should tune in on YouTube or Porsche Motorsport Hub. The races will be Saturday and Sunday, I think, in the afternoon around 4 p.m. Yeah, cross your fingers that I can extend my championship lead. It will be a really important weekend. It's a 350th race of Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, so it will be a really important race to win it. And arriving as the championship leader is really nice and a great feeling. And yeah, cross your fingers. And the week after, I'm at the second weekend of Porsche Mobile 1 Supercup. It's my rookie season, and you can watch, the German people can watch on Sky, and the rest can watch on Formula 1 TV if you have it. And yeah, cross your fingers. Thank you.
Perfect. Schlaum, your plugs or just your socials, and then I'll wrap things up.
Yeah, it's just schlaumofficial everywhere, and yeah, it would be great if you follow me, of course.
Perfect. With that, of course, at tylerfeelin on Instagram and Twitter. And with that, of course, make sure to follow BSCOMPETITION here on Twitch. Make sure to check out more things that we have planned with Zebra TV. I promise you guys, streams are going to be coming somewhat soon. We're still getting the final details hooked when it comes down to our overlay. And with that as well, as Schlaum already said, the first 2 episodes are now out on Spotify. This episode should be up around Friday or Saturday. And of course, for any of our audio listeners, you could have watched this live every single Wednesday. We do bring in different guests from the team. Of course, we still have a wide pool of drivers, of sim racers, of gamers as well. A couple of exciting announcements coming soon. And of course, we will have the Rocket League team, the whole team, hopefully, in a Zebra Talk soon, as they are, of course, coming to the boot camp. And yeah, our first Zebra camp, and looking forward to seeing that happen. With that, of course, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and goodbye.